And it is time once again for another AEW Dynamite review here on the MrWarrenHayes Show channel. Hello and welcome. I am Warren. Hope you're having a great week so far, folks. It is Thursday. It is August 7, 2025. We're going to be talking about the August 6, 2025 edition of AEW Dynamite. All together here as we do every week here on the channel. And if you wouldn't mind already, well, leave a like on the channel, on the YouTube channel if you're here, or a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, or a 5-star rating on Spotify. That would help out tremendously. But yes, it is another Dynamite that is in the can, where a Dynamite that I liked. I thought I enjoyed it. We're setting things up for Forbidden Door. Things are happening. We had some really good wrestling. I thought a lot of segments that connected. I like this Dynamite much more than last week's. I thought this one was very good, and it's interesting because yeah, we are getting towards Forbidden Door, and I know there's a lot of discontent. I don't know if it's discontent, but there's a lot of just some talk out there that there's a lot of AEW show matches on this Forbidden Door card, not a lot of New Japan stuff, right? And I talked about it on stream, but I'm going to reiterate a couple of points here in case you don't join me on stream. You should pop in on a stream once in a while on the YouTube channel. That'd be nice. It's a nice time. It's fun. It's fine. It's nice and fine. But I do want to point out that this discussion around Forbidden Door not feeling very Forbidden Door-y, it's like partially open door and all sorts of gags like that. And it's fine, it's fine. I'm all for jokes. I'm all for memes. Go right ahead and do it. But I think that I think one thing that we have to sort of come around to as AEW fans, New Japan fans, is we have to come around to the idea that these Forbidden Doors shows are going to feel less and less like these big time shows where there's all of these impossible matches that are finally happening. We have to let that aspect go. I think we're done with that. I don't think it's reasonable, at least now, and from probably a couple of years. I know it kind of started last year, but this year it's particularly significant because look, there hasn't been anything announced on the New Japan side for this show outside of Hiroshi Tanahashi saying, I'm going to wrestle my last UK match at Forbidden Door. There's been jack shit. Like, there's been nothing. There are reasons for that. And, there's a couple of them. First and foremost, as long as Forbidden Door is being held in August, this is what we're going to have to deal with because we're right in G1 territory, right? We're the heavyweights, the guys that you want to see, they're not available. They're all in the G1. They're all doing stuff. And they're going to be doing this right up until the 15th, the 14th, I think is the last night, something to that effect. The 14th of August, 15th. It's either one of those two dates. It's just escaping me now. But it's like, there's no one that's going to jump off the tour to fly to Cincinnati or Cleveland, as it was last night, to do an angle and then fly back to get back on the tour. That's just not happening. That's just not a thing that's going to happen. And that's a reality that we're going to have to deal with, right? This idea, look, unless like Forbidden Door gets moved to what? April, May? May is when we do Best of Super Juniors. Unless we move it to there, where then all the heavyweights are available because it's the Best of Super Juniors tour. All the heavyweights, are just like dicking around. Unless we do that, there is no real. We're going to have to temper our expectations in that regard. I think there's also the idea that the matches are not as forbidden as they were, right? Whereas when Forbidden Door launched a few years ago, 4 years ago, when it was launched, it was a big deal because it was the release of Harold Mage and all that era. We were finally releasing that. We were finally breaking free of that. And Harold Mage said he never worked with the elite guys because of the way they left and so on and so forth. Now it's like the ice had thawed, and now what was unthinkable became very possible. And then you could start pumping away at all these dream matches, like Danielson and Okada, for instance. But we've passed that point. We've passed that point where we have the dream matches waiting for us. I don't know what they are anymore. I don't know what's left as far as New Japan and AEW is concerned. I don't know what's left. We've done quite a bit, and the fact now, the reality is that there are so many crossover shows throughout the year, or opportunities for talent to cross over. There's a lot more sheen that's been taken off of Forbidden Door in that respect. I don't think it's necessarily intentional. I think you have to go with the ebbs and flows of the market. But look like what happened just a couple of weeks ago. Well, a couple of months ago at this point, in June. With the week that everyone spent in Mexico, right? You had AEW that was there. You had New Japan that was there. CMLL was hosting everyone, and then you had that great Arena Mexico show on Tuesday, right? Then you had the Arena Mexico, the Grand Slam Mexico show, which was terrific, which was really, really good. And then you had the Fantastic Mania show at the end of the week. So, you had your opportunities for crossover there. And there's been more, the possibilities for wrestlers to cross over and wrestle guys from other promotions has been a lot more fluid than it's been in years. And this all happens outside of Forbidden Door. So, we're going to be getting Mystico, for instance. I know it's not necessarily in Japan, but we're going to be getting Mystico and MJF outside of the confines of Forbidden Door. Probably, most likely. So look, if you ask me, I think it's better and healthier that the three partners, right, they work together all throughout the year. I think that's a better sign than just waiting for this one time in the year where this is where we're working and there's nothing else. I think that's better overall. The side effect is that it takes some shine away, some sheen away from AEW, not from AEW, but from Forbidden Door. And then here's the last really significant thing I believe that we should all be keeping in our mind when it comes to Forbidden Door. Obviously Forbidden Door, I think, and I say obviously, maybe it's not that obvious, but in the way it's constructed and put together, it's a show I feel is more geared towards Western wrestling fans. That was a mouthful for no reason. Western wrestling fans as opposed to, the Japanese fans. So if AEW right now is stacking up the top of the card with its own matches, and people are upset about that, and say, well, where are the New Japan matches? Well, the question then that I have to ask is, who do you put in these top drawing matches? Who are the guys from New Japan that you put up there? Okay, Tanahashi has announced that he's going to be wrestling his last match. So we're waiting around to see who's going to be the nominee, who's going to be jumping in to wrestle the last match with him. He's a top guy, that's fine. But if it's not him, who else is it going to be? Who can come out there and you say, hell yeah, like Hangman Adam Page versus, and then I hear Zack Sabre Jr. And look, I agree. Zack is great. And he's the world champion right now. He's a tremendous pick. But again, he's a guy right now who's caught in the G1. And he's probably, for Western fans, probably the only other guy they have on the roster who's really meaningful for for Western fans of New Japan and whatnot, right? Particularly in the UK. I think so sure, if you wanted to do a world champion versus world champion main event, that would rule actually, because then all the politics behind that and so on and so forth, I'd be super into it. But okay, so let's say we discard Zack Sabre Jr. Like Yota Tsuji, he's fine and all, but yeah, I like Yota Tsuji enough, but is he a guy that you throw there in a tippy top main event match? Like, who's the dream match for Yota Tsuji? Same goes with Yuya Uemura or run down the list. Shota Umino, Ryohei Oiwa. Like, look, hey, I like Ryohei Oiwa a lot, but I don't know how acquainted not main event, but I'm not sure how acquainted Western wrestling fans are with Ryohei Oiwa. You maybe, because you're a pro wrestling fan and you tend to watch a lot of stuff, and if you're listening to me, there's a good chance that you know who he is and you have a certain level of appreciation for him. But I'm talking like your run of the mill fans who aren't like plugged in the ways that we are, right? That aren't like turbo wrestling nerds. Who's the guy? Who is the guy who does it? So New Japan has to settle that issue on their end too, where they don't have the guys. Gabe Kidd would have absolutely found his way onto this card. I was actually thinking that they were going to pull Omega Kid 2, right? Off of the big match that they had at Wrestle Dynasty. I was sure that we were going to do the second one in Forbidden Door. That's the kind of thing you can negotiate for. Okay, well, we'll do the first one here, and then the second one, the other guy will get the other guys will get the rematch, basically. Kind of like what they did with Okada and Danielson, right? I don't know what to I don't know what to say. I don't know how you can look at the situation with the card with who's on the card in New Japan and say, oh yes, these will be my top people. Yeah, Shingo Takagi's a great guy, but he's an underpushed commodity. They don't push him in New Japan anymore, right? And I don't think he has. I don't think he's a guy that we turbo nerds really, really like, but I don't think he's got that appeal to a larger audience. We saw it with Tetsuya Naito as well. When Tetsuya Naito would come to North America, he's a huge fucking superstar, but for the AEW crowds, it was a little more tepid. He didn't get the reactions that Kazuchika Okada, for instance, would get back in the day, or even Will Ospreay and so on and so forth, or Hiroshi Tanahashi. So again, I don't know who New Japan has to offer that would make the Forbidden Door card, really, really special in a crossover event, with crossover matches up and down the card. And I think Tony Khan realizes it, and he's like, well, I got to book my top guys for my pay-per-view, because I'm not going to depend on Shingo Takagi versus Hangman Adam Page as a draw. And I think he's right. The thing is that he's right. New Japan has to work out there. New Japan has no one. They have no stars. They have no top guys. Naito's gone. Tanahashi's got he's ending active competition at the end of, in 5 months. He's done. And he's physically he's done right now. So you can't really count on him to tear the house down in a big time main event. They got no one. They have no one lined up. There's not an ace in this company anymore. So they have to figure out their shit too. Everyone, again, you can go and blame AEW on this and say, AEW only booking their guys. What the fuck is this, Tony Khan? But you're missing the broader picture. There's a much bigger picture to this, as it usually is. And I think a lot of the onus falls on New Japan for not having any stars to fill this star-studded show. I sincerely believe that. So I think for the next couple of years, until the partners get their act together, and, unless suddenly the partners stop working with each other throughout the year to privilege like one, maybe two times in the year that they actually do some cross promotional work. Forbidden Door is not going to be what it used to be, and and we're going to stop having this conversation because at least we have to stop having this conversation because we have to come to grips with this. We have to come to grips with this reality. It's here. It's real. It's happening. Forbidden Door is just not what it used to be, and it will not for a while. How about that? Okay, that just wanted to get that off my chest for some reason on this Dynamite review. This Dynamite that happened in Cleveland, Ohio, at the Wolstein Center. Wolstein. I don't know. It's either or. I wasn't paying attention enough for the pronunciation. 3,049 tickets were distributed according to WrestleTix. So they had a pretty significant walk up the day of that still has us under the year-to-date average. The last time that AEW was in this building was on October 30, 2024, where they drew 3,681 people. So, I know there's already some chatter regarding Hangman Adam Page and how come he's not drawing more. And, it is curious, but I'm not here. I'm not ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater in this circumstance yet. I'm not ready to bury Hangman. I think Hangman, he can, his power as a draw, I guess, can still come down the road in a couple of weeks and whatever. But it is interesting that with the groundswell of investment that a lot of fans had into Hangman winning the title, it's interesting that we're not seeing yet, as of yet, any shifts in any significant shifts in metrics, right? Now, I'm not saying suddenly, he's not filling up a basketball arena, so he sucks. Hangman, terrible draw, worst champion of all time. Far from it. And I don't even want to really go down that route yet, because I think there's still a ways to go. We can still examine this on a week per week basis. I don't think I'm not ready to toss out Hangman here and discount what he's doing, but you really did feel from the fan base that this was the turnaround that AEW needed, but I'm not quite seeing it. This was the first opportunity to really see it, because this is the first time that they've been out, that they've been in a larger venue than the Aragon Ballroom since All In, and they actually drew less people here than the last time they were here, just a little under a year ago. I think that's interesting, right? But then again, it's like, is this a disastrous thing? I don't know. I don't think so, because I don't think AEW has that much of a concern, economically speaking, regarding whether they're drawing money or not, or drawing people into the buildings or not. As opposed to money, you always want to draw money, but drawing people into the buildings, I don't know if they're that concerned. With the media deal, right? And it's something with the media deal that is actually the main source of income. They can probably suffer through this kind of stuff and suffer through, smaller houses, like doing 1,500 people at the Aragon Ballroom for 2 weeks in a row. They're probably like, sure, because our money's coming in from the deal, right? Yeah, it's kind of like when I used to talk about when I was at Fightful, and we used to break down the attendance in the buildings and whatnot. And it was, it wasn't as good as it was today. It was, it wasn't good for WWE standards. They were tarping off quite a bit and whatnot. And we were sitting there and going, well, they're not drawing what's going on. We'd always come around to the conclusion that it's like, well, does it really matter? Because, their TV deals are so big, not as big as the TV deals they have today. Oh boy. If 2019 Warren Hayes knew what kind of media deals that the WWE would have, 6 years later, boy, I'll tell you one thing, I wouldn't be fretting for WWE back then. So it's the same situation here, where it's like your main source of income is the media deal. That's how professional wrestling companies make money in our modern day. So, of course they want to be able to maximize the revenue that they can make off of live events. That's logical, makes sense, but then they can take these hits. They can take these hits because their bottom line is not dependent on whether or not they can pack, 100 people more in this building. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter on that level anyway. Look, I wouldn't call this, it's a good attendance for AEW overall. It's a little under average, as we mentioned, but I was kind of thinking that there would be the Hangman effect, to a degree. And, well, you want to just be clear and objective, where you're like, well, the year over year is not there. But again, I'm not ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I want to make that super clear. I am not saying Hangman is terrible. In fact, I'm keeping the bathwater, and I'm keeping the baby, of course, but I'm also keeping the bathwater. I'm keeping it, not in the tub. I'm keeping it in jars, right? And I'm taking the jars, I'm filling them up, and I'm labeling the jars, and I'm putting the date of the bath on the label, along with what I use to clean myself, what type of body cleanse, shampoo, anything else, lotions maybe, whatever. I'll add that on. And I will grade the level of filth that I felt I had before getting into the bath. On a scale of 1 to 10. I will also determine, as I was going in, I'll consider all the factors. Did I work out? Am I back from a workout? Did I go garden? Am I sweaty because it's so hot, sweaty, disgusting? All that stuff. I'm all going to pack that all together and make sure that, and give an appropriate filth rating from 1 being, clean as fuck to 10 being, covered in mud and shit. Maybe not specific shit, but not like actual shit. Different things, dust and whatever. Whatever. So I'll add that as a label. 6.5, let's say, and then I'll put the jars away. So those are going to be a lot of jars, and then eventually maybe I end up selling them. Would there be a market for Warren Hayes bathwater? I'm asking. I'm straight up asking the market right now. I'm asking the potential customer base right now. Is there a market for Warren Hayes bathwater? The show opened with MJF calling out Hangman Adam Page. He is furious. He's pissed off. First of all, Max won the CMLL. I believe it's the world middleweight title. He called it the world title. That's fine. He can do whatever he wants. It's the world middleweight title, I believe, off of Averno last Friday at the CMLL show in Arena, Mexico. And I watched the match. And if you're wondering how good it was, here's my short form review. Max played the gringo heel with perfection. All this was a heel demonstration here with some with some hope spots from Averno. But ultimately, it was all about Max just being completely despised by Arena Mexico. He gets the win. He even had John Cruz, of all people, there to corner him because, he cut a promo at the beginning of the match and had John Cruz translate as we were going along. So, who knows if this continues? Probably not. They didn't reference that at all on AEW Dynamite. It's probably just a CMLL thing here. So Max was phenomenal in his heel work. If you're looking for, a high-flying, exciting lucha libre match, this isn't it. I do a 3.5, 3 3/4, because I thought I thought the crowd work was tremendous and it really was a vibes match. And ultimately, what I feel they're doing is that they're making sure, because Sandokan Jr. came out to challenge MJF immediately after the match. So I think what they're doing is they're going to give him another, him being MJF, another crack at Arena Mexico to get himself up over even more, and then come back probably at the anniversary show to fight Místico and blow off their feud. And Místico will be the champion and win. He's the champion of Mexico, of CMLL and all that. He's going to win, as it should. I think that's what they're going for. So yeah, but in the meantime, Max is going to be walking around with the CMLL title, which is good. And you see, it kind of goes to my point regarding the Forbidden Door stuff and the partners working together. See, it's like, anyway, we're not, but it goes to my point without retreading everything. It goes to my point. So he's backstage. He's pissed off about being forced into a corner, of course, that he has to cash in his contract, or he has to work his way to winning the championship. Whereas he's been trying to get Hangman to just give up the goat and say, okay, I challenge you to a title without Max having to give up anything. But it's not working out. And in the meantime, he has to fight Mark Briscoe tonight. And he gets into a venomous tirade, which I thought was fantastic. I know, and this is the kind of promo that MJF is really good at. He was absolutely terrific in here. And this is the kind of promo that even the people who don't like MJF will look at and point to and say, this is the MJF we'd like all the time. He was terrific. And personally, I think he's better in this type of role than, trying to be too edgy and although it doesn't bother me as much, sometimes he just gets lost in the sauce. These types of promos, MJF is fantastic at. He is absolutely remarkably great. So if we could get more of that, that would be fantastic. And he just goes all in on Mark Briscoe, calling him a hillbilly, of course, a redneck, saying that he's, people like him never amount to nothing, right? He's not an athlete. He's not a great person. He's white trash that got lucky. It's fantastic. And I'm going to send you back to Delaware to be a loser chicken farmer. Just great stuff. It was absolutely fantastic. And the kind of promo that MJF is really good sinking his teeth into. But now we move on to the first match of the night where Jon Moxley defeated Speedball Mike Bailey. Speedball Mike Bailey, that troublemaker, that backstage rabble-rouser, Mike Bailey. Oh, that guy, he got what was coming to him. He got the piss beat out of him in this match. Oh, good match. I enjoyed this match tremendously. I thought Mox, once again, as he has been over the past couple of weeks, has been phenomenal. He's been spot on with everything that he does. Just so precise and vicious all the time. He's great. Meanwhile, Mike Bailey, he worked this in the best possible way, where he just came in aggressive with his strikes, doing some incredible stuff like the flipping double knees on the barricade. That was cool as hell. And he's doing kicks and more of the double knees and shooting star presses. But Mox and then towards the end, I love this. I love the setup to the finish here. Mike Bailey is doing his best to get him into a cross arm breaker. And he gets Mox into the cross arm breaker. And he does it a couple of times. And Mox is struggling to get out of them, right? It's almost as if Mike Bailey has Mox's number. But on the last cross arm breaker attempt, Mox is able to wriggle out and transition into a sleeper. I think it's a sleeper. I don't think it was the Bulldog choke. I think it was a sleeper. And then lifts him up for the Death Rider, the Death Rider, right? For the win. And I love the finish. I thought it was a good build to that finish. Made a lot of sense. It was great. And then in the meantime, within the match, which we didn't mention, but here we are mentioning it. In the match, at some point, Darby Allin shows up and kidnaps Wheeler Yuta, drags him to the back, disappears with him. I wish I could tell you exactly how he managed to kidnap him, but production was not all over this. Production was all over anything else than showing us what was happening specifically. And when they did get to the cameras to show us what was going on, it was either like jumbled crowd view or just darkness of the backstage area. So it didn't turn out great. Excuse me. But Mox immediately after the match gets out of the ring and beelines to where Darby took Wheeler Yuta away, along with Marina Shafir as well. Next, we had a backstage interview with Toni Storm and Alex Windsor. They are doing some sexual innuendo here and all sorts of it. And Alex Windsor, I thought, was really good in this spot. Of course, you've got Toni Storm there, who's holding the fort, who's a someone that you can lean on. So she probably felt very confident. But her timing, doing the jokes with Tony and whatnot, came across really good. It wasn't corny. I enjoyed this segment, and this is all to hype up the Alex's participation in the 4 women match later on. Then we get we go outside, not just backstage, outside to the parking lot. Wheeler Yuta is in a body bag. So Jon Moxley and Marina drag him away from the middle of the parking lot as Darby drives past them, and they open it up, and there is a note stuck to Wheeler Yuta's forehead that says "Forbidden Door." So the challenge has been issued. Will Jon Moxley accept? Commentary tried to tell us that that it was in fact stapled to Yuta's forehead, when in fact it was really just tape. You could see the tape on the back of the card. There was no blood. There was no staples. It was just tape. Maybe they thought they could get away with it with Wheeler's hair, but it didn't work. That wasn't it. Then we had the AEW TBS Championship qualifying match. Qualifying, Warren. What are you talking about? What is this qualifying thing? Well, I'm glad you asked in such a low tone. It was revealed that Mercedes Moné at Forbidden Door was going to put up her TBS Championship in a 4-way match with 3 other women, 3 women representing different promotions, one representing AEW, the other representing CMLL, the other representing Stardom. So we're going to have a Forbidden Door 4-way match for the TBS Championship. I got to tell you, this match was a match that had 2 matches in it. There was a pretty good match, and there was a stinkeroony. The good parts could be boiled down to Queen Aminata and Alex Windsor just going at it and doing good stuff, solid strikes, dumping each other on their heads with some big moves and stuff, and you're like, this is good. And then the stinker parts would happen when Sky Blue and Billy Starks would get involved, and they would just completely blow the rhythm, the flow of this match. Holy shit. And I am not alone in thinking this. You watched the audience's reaction for this match when Aminata and Windsor are doing things together. The crowd is into it. They're reacting. They're doing stuff. And the energy just drops when Sky Blue or Billy Starks get involved. It just completely falls. And it truly is spectacular how these were 4 completely... There were 2 teams in this match of... Not actual teams, but you could split these 4 women down the middle, right? And you have 2 very competent, good pro wrestlers and 2 who somehow are on national television and are just not getting the job done. And I just look awful. And yes, I am going to talk about that atrocious spot with Sky Blue on the floor. Let's do the setup here for those of you who haven't seen it. She's on the floor. She's in control of Queen Aminata. She has Aminata bend forward and she's setting up, she being Sky Blue, she's setting up to do her Code Red gimmick, Code Blue, as she calls it. Plus, there's a chair set up upright right in front of her, so therefore behind Queen Aminata. That's the setup. So she's on, so she has Aminata bent forward. She hops on her back, okay? And she sits there. And the next thing you know, she slides off the back without any provocation, without being compelled to do it in any way, shape, or form. And she throws herself face first onto the chair. Again, there is nothing pushing her onto the chair, dropping her onto the chair. She is doing this out of her own volition. Now, I've watched wrestling enough to understand that there's a fair chance that Queen Aminata didn't live up to her side of the bargain here. There's a very good chance that she was supposed to do something here, that she was supposed to toss Blue off of her back and Blue was supposed to fall on the chair. Probably. But she didn't do it. She blew her spot, whatever the fuck. I don't know what happened. Miscommunication. Who cares? What I care about here is the result. And the result is Sky Blue in her mind saying, well, the spot is I need to go face first on the chair. And she does it herself and it looks ridiculous. Whereas she could have done anything else. She could have reset to do it. She could have thought on her feet and do anything else, like get Aminata set up for something else. No, she didn't have any of those reflexes. She decided to do the spot, even though there was no reason, there was nothing compelling her to do the spot, and it looked ridiculous. Folks, it was embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that someone who is on national TV every week, like Sky Blue, who's been doing this for a long time. She's no green rookie. She has hundreds of matches in her belt. There is no reason for someone on national television, a big-time wrestling show, there's no reason someone should be doing what she did. That is embarrassing. She could have done anything else. She could have thought on her feet, sort of worked something out to get to the spot regardless. But look, this is also a way that wrestling is taught, right? You got to stick to your spot, stick to the script, There's a lot of wrestlers, there's a lot of wrestlers who, have to follow that to the letter. And for a lot of times, you sort of blame it on inexperience. But Sky Blue is not a novice. She's not new to this anymore. She should not be willfully doing these kinds of spots that look absolutely ridiculous and terrible. She just shouldn't. So, the match is what it is. I don't think it was particularly good, but you want to revisit Alex Windsor and Queen Aminata anytime, that looks good. I thought they both look good. And look, 2 solid prospects for your division right there. In Aminata and in Windsor. I think Windsor's going to work out fine in AEW. I really did wonder how she was going to fare. You never quite know. But I think she's going to be fine. I think she's going to be really, really fine. If she keeps working as well as she does here, she might get herself over, not unlike how Jamie Hayter got herself over. I think there's a fair chance that kind of stuff happens. And Aminata, she just needs a little push, and she'll get over. Let her be as vile and aggressive as she is, like in Deadlock Pro, and you've got yourself a winner. After the match, because there were some shenanigans here, because look, Athena was at ringside cornering Billy Starks. Toni Storm also came out cornering Alex Windsor. And after the match, Mercedes Moné comes to the ring, and she hits the ring with all of her belts and has a stare down with Alex Windsor. And Toni Storm sort of slides into the ring, but she's not aggressive. She's just like keeping an eye on things, right? And this causes a bit of a commotion. It causes, causes a bit of a bit of tension and whatnot, which allows Mercedes Moné to attack Alex Windsor, but also allows Athena to hit the O-face on Toni Storm. And then at the end of the match, not the match, but the segment, Athena and Mercedes Moné stare at each other, a little tense, but they don't come to blows. They seem to have like an understanding of, the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing. So I like the segment because of, it's furthering the stories that you need to be furthering for Forbidden Door. And it also continues to show that there's unfinished business, even though it's not quite obvious, it's simmering. There is unfinished business with Toni Storm. Oh, and Mercedes had come out of a car, right, earlier, and she really didn't want to answer Renee Paquette's answers, so questions about losing the title to Toni Storm. So we're gonna revisit that sooner than later, and I'm okay with that because Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné is one of my favorite matches of the year. Then we go backstage where Max and Jeremy Buck are being interviewed by I think it's Renee again, and look, this whole thing with the Bucks has been terrific. They're very good at the self-deprecating humor, and it's working. For a long time, people just wanted to shit on the Bucks, and they're getting comeuppance for all of the EVP stuff, and it's working. People are into it. The disrespect thing is working. It's fantastic. Like, it's really, really working out well. I thought this was another good little segment here. It's not, they're shouting at a production guy saying, "Look, our pyro sucks. Give us pyro, better graphics. We want the full entrance. And here, give this to Justin Roberts and, have him read this to introduce us." And it's basically notes. So when Justin Roberts later on introduces them, he's reading the notes instead of working with what's written. He's just straight up reading the notes that the Bucks left. So, yeah, I like the bit. I'm enjoying this. It's a good bit. Then we have Kyle Fletcher with the Don Callis family, along with Don Callis as well, of course, coming to the ring to have their TNT title victory promo. Like I said, the family is there, represented by Lance Archer, Josh Alexander, and Hechicero. And I love the idea. I got to tell you, I love the idea of Hechicero just like flying in from Mexico to do these AEW shots, and he's just standing around there. He's not wrestling, but he's flying in to do it. He's got it, wearing a black, a tight black shirt, and his mask, and he's part of the family, right? I think it's terrific. Anyway, Callis, Renee Paquette is there. It's supposed to manage that. Renee Paquette, very fucking busy, very, very busy last night. It's as if she has energy to give. So Don Callis is there in the ring, and he takes control of the promo, basically laying out how great the Don Callis family is because they hold all the gold and all. And I know I say this often, but isn't it great to have like a real manager who's got a real managerial stable, and he's like, my guys are the best because I'm the best, and it's manager shit, and he's a manager. He's not an advocate. He's not like a coach, a special counsel. None of that fucking bullshit. Because Vince hated the word manager. He's a manager, and we're bringing managers back. This is the most old school. I get so many great old school vibes from all of this, but with a good modern feel to it. Just a bunch of guys together who are a family because they're all under the same management, and the manager he's glad because he's making money because his guys are winning belts and he's lining his pockets, and it's terrific. Don Callis is great. He's been amazing in everything, and he lays out everything, and then passes the mic to Kyle Fletcher, and Fletcher cuts a terrific promo. Again, we've been having terrific promos all night, and here's another one where he just establishes, he calls this being this is my destiny to win, and and putting over the fact of how dangerous he is, right? Not only driving a screwdriver through Dustin Rhodes' knees in their terrific match last week in Collision, not only doing that and forcing, Dustin to get surgery, but also taking credit for knocking Adam Cole possibly out of wrestling, right? Which is controversial because, a lot of people seem to be pointing to that powerbomb as being the thing that did it, but owning it up and using it as a heel persona, I think that's fantastic. I think it's great. And then this all leads to an oil painting being revealed that that's the gimmick. Don Callis bringing that gimmick back that he used to do with Kenny Omega, and he gets Mel Coleman to paint them. But now Callis says that he's painting them with his own hands. And this terrific oil painting, one of Mel Coleman's best, honestly, where you have Fletcher standing there triumphant, arms outright, holding on to the TNT title, and he seems to be nude. He seems to be completely bereft of clothing. Only the TNT belt that he's holding is hiding his genitalia. And Don Callis, of course, is standing next to him, holding the belt, helping him hold the belt, but also super buff and in this fishnet see-through tank top. It's gorgeous. It's legitimately a work of art. It's great stuff, and I'm glad they brought that gimmick back. And this was another successful segment. Next, we had Adam Copeland, who's backstage, mentioning the chaos with the fracturing of the patriarchy, but also then talks about his problems with FTR, and he's challenging Stokely to a match next week, which is weird because, Stokely is not a wrestler, and yet this was sanctioned and all that. It's kind of strange. It's a very Edge type storyline to do, but the idea here is that since FTR has a restraining order and that Adam Copeland can't attack them, well, he'll attack Stokely, and reminds us that if FTR attacks Copeland, then the restraining order becomes null and void. So obviously this is, it's bait, right? It's bait to get FTR to nullify all of this so we can move on to a tag match, I guess. This is all very confusing as well. Well, not confusing, but it's like, what direction are we going here with Adam Copeland? Is it FTR or is it, the former patriarchy uncaged when Christian Cage comes back? Look, I guess we'll see. We'll see how all this goes. But we're doing that match next week. We can fast forward a little later on in the evening and just jumble this all together. FTR basically responds to the challenge with Stokely looking completely distressed. His facials here were absolutely fantastic. And this other great segment here where, Dax and Cash basically are, they're boosting him. They're saying, oh, he'd never back down from a challenge anywhere. And, Stoke is in the back and he's looking at Cash saying that. He's like, what the fuck, man? No, he's like completely terrified. But he cuts a promo after he being Stokely, saying, he's short and he doesn't get any hoes, something to that effect, which I thought was funny. But then he ends up saying, even in an even funnier line, saying that Adam Copeland's wife has the head of a micro brawler, which just had everyone completely break in that segment. Everyone just started cracking up, except Stokely. He stayed laser focused. He's a legitimately funny guy. So this segment was really good. I'm not excited for that match next week. It's just going to be I don't know. I could do without it. Let's put it that way. Brodito defeated Max and Jeremy Buck to advance in the Tag Team Eliminator Tournament, and something that I think caught a lot of people by surprise. Delightfully surprised, because this Brodito team has been picking up a lot of steam. People really like them, and both Brody and Bandito have really been working well together. They've meshed really well. Lots of chemistry between the two, and they're working, double team stuff and whatnot. Like, I think it's been a delightful surprise. And they've got great merch on top of that. We'll see how long it lasts after the Eliminator Tournament, but for a team that felt very throwaway, they've got something here. Crowd is super into it, and they were great in this match. So were the Bucks, or Generation Me, maybe. We got to just come together. It's another example here, and I don't know how clear it could be. The Young Bucks are quite possibly the greatest tag team to ever do it. Longevity, influence on the business, and just quality of work throughout that entire career. It's unprecedented. I don't think you could pull out multiple tag teams, and there's maybe a couple that I think about and like, well, maybe if you'd make a compelling case, but I look, I know the Bucks are not everyone's favorite, and flippy doos and all that, and I get it. But when you see matches like this, and like matches that they've been having systematically like this since this, all throughout this year, it's hard to not look at these two guys and not say this is the best tag team of all time. I think they are. I really think they are. What a terrific match. Great tag team action all around. A little bit of chaos, but some really good, clean tag team pro wrestling from all four of these guys. And the match ends with Bandito and Brody doing the spring monkey flip gimmick, which is a great tag team finisher. I don't know how they came up with it, but it's another great tag team finisher. Fantastic match. Like, I really, really liked it. I thought this match was great. Like a 4.25 style match for me. Absolutely phenomenal. The Hurt Syndicate are backstage. They're having their little segment, and MJF comes in to interrupt. MVP sends the boys away so he can have a one-on-one with MJF. And, MJF pleads his case. MVP is like, look, stop. There's no point. Ever since you joined us, it's been me, when it should be we. And you're not you're not meant to be in this team. That's all there is to it. You're not meant to be in this group. And MVP gave him the thumbs down. So effectively, I'm assuming this means that MJF is officially out of the Hurt business. Boy, oh boy. What a way to wrap up this angle here with no payoff outside of MVP saying, if you ever become world champion, Bobby Lashley's coming for you. There's no payoff, nothing happening. It's just like, it's as if they had to jettison this angle really quickly for a reason. After all those weeks building to it, look, I'm sticking with what I said last week, though. It makes sense that Max gets kicked out, that he can't work in a team, because he didn't want a team. He wanted lackeys. He wanted a Wardlow. He wanted a Pinnacle. Anytime that he's worked within teams, it's always been very self-serving. And, these groups, these pairings, these teams, they always fell apart because that's how MJF is. So I don't have a problem with this angle coming to an end this quickly, but what I'm shocked with is that there's no payoff. There's nothing. There's just nothing. Look, you've heard the rumors about the Hurt business this week, right? Probably. If so, there's been reports going around that the Hurt business has a bunch of heat backstage and they don't like Mike Bailey, or MVP doesn't like Mike Bailey, and Mike Bailey and MVP and all the Hurt business did a little quirky little fun video with each other backstage to sort of show that there's really no true dissent and, whatever the fuck's going on. So that might, that's likely a line of bullshit, but that isn't as much it. Like the fact that MVP, I know a lot of people focused on that. I don't even think that's the most important part of the reports. Most of the reports were talking about how, MVP was just rubbing people the wrong way, was getting a lot of heat backstage from multiple people, and that some people just outright didn't want to work with the Hurt Business, and the Hurt Business didn't want to put over people like FTR, for instance. And it's all, I don't know exactly where I stand on this, other than, clearly there's issues. Clearly there's things happening. I think there's a lot of people who have narratives around the Hurt Syndicate. I think I've been saying business, right? I apologize. I think there's a lot of people who have narratives around the Hurt Syndicate that are using this to propel the notion that they're out for themselves and whatnot. Look, from what I gather, MVP is a guy who's just like so straight up. He'll tell you blunt to your face what he thinks about you. He doesn't bullshit, and that's a quality, and that's a quality. But also, it can work to your detriment at the same time in a business where everyone is at the very least supposed to put on a happy face and say, "Oh yeah, even if you don't necessarily like the person, maybe you're just like, you're going to play along or whatever." And maybe that level of honesty puts people off, right? That could be. Rumors of the Hurt Syndicate not wanting to do jobs. Look, sure, I can hear that. I can buy that to a degree, though, because this all boils down to the boss. This all boils down to Tony Khan. Now, the reports also accompany the idea that Tony Khan is fed up with them, and that their contract might be up by the end of the year, or within the year, I should say. But then there's also reports saying that no, they've got a multi-year deal. I'm like, look, in these circumstances, I am always much more excited to think about who might be putting out these leaks. And not just in this circumstance, in any type of situation where there's leaks. Who's leaking the information? What is that person's agenda? What is that person's end game to be leaking this information? There's reasons for this. So, that's something that a lot of us learn throughout the whole CM Punk AEW saga, right? So that's really the question here. I honestly don't really care as to whether or not the Hurt Business have heat and people don't like them. Like it's a wrestling, like when I see these types of reports, I'm like, oh, so a wrestling locker room is being a wrestling locker room. Okay. Isn't that special? Isn't that great? Now, if it has impacts on the product where, the logical thing would be for FTR to win the titles, but the Hurt Business don't want to drop the titles to them. Well, there's a guy in charge who should be managing the creative, and he should be deciding how things go, right? Like, as far as I know, the Hurt Syndicate don't have creative control over their angles. I don't think there's no one in AEW that has creative control over their angles. It's the same thing with the Malachi Black stuff. It's all very weird. I mean, they can turn down pitches and whatnot. That's a whole different story. But as far as I know, there's one guy who's booking, one guy who's in control of everything that's creative. So if there's issues and there's things that aren't going the way that they're supposed to, well, it's up to him to fix it, right? And is he fed up with the Hurt Business? Maybe he is. I don't know. I don't know these people. I know what I know what I'm picking up, what I'm gathering, what I'm able to bring together. And from what I understand, I think there is validity to the frustrations in regards to the Hurt Syndicate, and it's not necessarily a recent thing. It's not something that just popped up a couple of weeks ago. No, might be a little deeper. It might be a little. We might be facing a little pressure cooker type of situation here. Okay, from what I understand, and when it's laid out to me, it makes sense. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's real. I don't know what parts are exaggerated, which parts are authentic. A locker room where there's two big, specifically one, right? Big old alpha male coming in, big swinging dick, as you like to say, coming in. Yeah, that's going to ruffle some feathers. You know, you don't think Bobby Lashley comes in with a little meek personality, didn't walk in going around the locker room saying, oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see you. Oh my God, I'm so glad to meet you. So, you know, he conducts himself in a Bobby Lashley alpha male type of way. So I can understand that there are, you know, frustrations building that are not new, and it might blow up. I don't know if it will. I don't know how big it is, but there are frustrations there. They do exist. They are there. I think some people with some offhanded observations about what's going on with the Hurt Syndicate might be right. But then again, I'm like, okay, well, there's a guy who can fix this. There's a guy in charge. He should be able to fix this. God, if there's anything he's learned from past experience, is fix this as soon as fucking possible. Don't let it get out of control. So, you know, I think there might be part of that into, you know, ending this angle early. I think, you know, look, there's other stuff maybe, you know, was there ever a plan? What was the end game for this? Maybe it wasn't clear, or maybe it wasn't in the direction we wanted to go. Look, I don't know. Just throwing things out there, but I wouldn't be surprised if this remains a steamy situation. I wouldn't be surprised in the least. All right, after that, we had the FTR Stokely promo, which we already talked about. Then we get another great promo by Swerve Strickland from the Mean Gene position, right? Like we like to call it here, from you know, where basically the interview is conducted with the audience in the back, right? So you see the crowd reacting and whatnot, and I love those. I love those so much, and it worked really well for Swerve here, because then you saw people reacting, you saw people doing the Who's House and all chant and all that stuff, and it truly was terrific. And Swerve basically, you know, warms up his feud with Okada, saying, you know, yeah, Okada, you know, the greatest big match wrestler of all time. That's him, but there's never been someone like me. You know, I looked into his eyes and I put the fear of God into him. Or he looked into my eyes and I put the fear of God into him. I looked into his and I saw nothing, kind of thing. You know, it's a really good promo. Very, very, very super solid promo where Swerve comes out. Yeah, Swerve was in his element, felt good. His promo was terrific. Everything clicked here. Again, another great promo here on the show. Then we get Mark Briscoe backstage. He's cutting a promo on Max for his match that's going to happen in a couple of minutes. But then Hangman Adam Page walks in, shakes his hand, says, look, you've been on a winning streak. If you win this main event tonight, I think it's like your fourth. If you win tonight, I will gladly give you a shot at the title. You'll have earned it. And I like this with Hangman doing this. Being assertive, being like, yeah, I'm the boss, I'm the champion, I decide how things go around here, and it's going to be a meritocracy. And you guys are going to earn the fucking shots. And Mark Briscoe, you're terrific. You know, we've known each other since PWX, I think he said, and Ring of Honor. You know, it'd be my pleasure to fight you. There you go. Like, that's terrific. I like this confident, strong Hangman. It's good. It's a good change of character, and it works. Queen Aminata is backstage after this, and she's getting interviewed, saying she can beat Mercedes Moné. Willow Nightingale jumps in, starts putting over a match, a trios match that they're going to have on Collision. Her, Aminata, and Ty Mello against the Triangle of Madness. And then Chris Statlander runs in, and she starts doing disingenuous, insincere, oh, women supporting women, you know, and hugging Renee and throwing confetti. And I'm like, what is she doing? Look, I'm gonna drop a bomb here. You ready for a hot take? Let me take a sip of water here. And I'm going to drop you a hot take. You ready for this? Here's the hot take. I think Chris Statlander is the worst booked wrestler in AEW right now. I think she is horribly booked. She's been horribly booked for the better part of a year. Ever since they split up the little thing that she had with Willow and Stoke, and then did the heel turn, then inexplicably became a face again, then started cozying up to Willow back again, right? And Willow sort of hand waves her and is like, I don't trust you anymore. And then she kind of becomes heel again. And then she's still going out to the crowd and getting babyface reactions and playing to the crowd. And then Wheeler Yuta is trying, and then she gets really mopey and angry. And then Wheeler Yuta tries to drag her to the dark side, right? And everyone's thinking, oh, she's going to be a Death Rider. And now she's doing this goofy shit. Like, I understand she's being insincere, but her intentions are all over the fucking place. She is legitimately the worst booked wrestler in AEW right now. And it's stunning to me that she is, because it should be the opposite. She should be super easy to book for because the crowd loves her, because she's a good wrestler. And it's a demonstration to how much this audience likes her, because they haven't turned on her yet. At this point, I'd be like, what the fuck? I'm this fucking close. I'm this close. Have we abandoned the idea of her being in the Death Riders? Because I thought that was kind of cool. You know, where she got hard and edgy. And now she's not hard and edgy. She's being a dick. She's just being a goofy ass dick. And I have no idea that, like, she has no direction. There's no vision for Chris Statlander. They're throwing shit at the wall. Don't they have someone who's supposed to look over continuity in this company? There's no rhyme or reason for the evolution of this character ever since her heel turn and her surprise babyface turn, her meritless babyface turn. None of this works. It's all junk. And just when you feel they're trying to do something, then we go askew to something else. Please make it make sense. I'm begging you, AEW, make it make sense, or give her a direction that will work. How about that for a hot take? And MJF in the main event defeated Mark Briscoe. I don't think there was much of a surprise here. A good match, hard-hitting, brutal, with MJF. You know, the story here was that Mark was trying to hit the froggy bow and couldn't, because Max was constantly rolling out of the way at every opportunity. And the big spot, of course, is Mark Briscoe doing the froggy bow off the top rope through a table on the floor that he had set up earlier. Max had rolled off the table, so Briscoe ate shit on it. Table fucking explodes on top of that. Just a remarkable spot. Then Max drags him back into the ring, does the heat seeker, gets the pin, but Mark Briscoe's foot was on the rope, and the referee, I think it was Remsburg, the referee didn't see the foot and called the end. And I'm sitting there going, we're dusty finish. We're doing a dusty finish here, right? We're going to start the matchup again. No, not even, because Max realized the foot was on there, then saw that the ref didn't see it. So Max just pushed the foot off. No harm, no foul, right? Terrific. It's a good heel ending and one that subverts your expectations. I like the ending. It's a good match. It was a good main event. And then after the match, MJF goes after Mark Briscoe, starts pummeling him, opens him up again with the Dynamite Diamond Ring, which draws out Hangman Adam Page to come to stick up for Mark. And MJF and Hangman have a great pull-apart brawl right into the crowd. It's really good. As MJF tries to escape, but then gets into a jaw-jacking contest with a member of the audience. So Hangman just grabs him, beats him up, drags him back to the ring, and then MJF takes a powder and goes up the ramp. But they had a really good pull-apart brawl here. I really, really enjoyed it. Now, the thing here that I'm apprehensive on, that I'm just a little worried is that, okay, MJF, with his expressions, you could clearly see that at the end of the segment that he had planned for this to happen. This being Hangman Adam Page coming out to attack him and take him out. So, and attack Mark Briscoe. So, because MJF wants to get under Page's skin so that Page will just challenge him to a title without Max having to use his contract. And it hasn't been working over the past couple of weeks. And now, and with Hangman taking a firm stance, but now, Hangman came out because okay, I'm enough of this guy's bullshit. So now, has MJF successfully gotten into Hangman's head enough to be able to get a world title shot without using his contract? And I'm going to be honest, I hope it's not. I hope next week, when MJF comes out to gloat and says, you're going to want to give me the challenge now, right? Or something to that effect. Hangman holds his ground. I hope he does. Because this is what I'd like. This is the story I think that they should ultimately be telling. Is that since Hangman has changed, he has evolved. He has become something else. His whole story from the Owen Hart tournament this year right up to the victory has all about been Hangman letting go of the past and moving forward, and no longer letting the past make him the anxious millennial cowboy, but rather, world champion, locker room leader, Hangman Adam Page, right? MJF hasn't changed an iota since he started in AEW. He's still the same guy. I hope that au contraire, Hangman holds his ground and MJF sort of realizes that he has to change too. The rules are the same, but the players don't play them the same. They don't follow. They don't play within the rules the same. And he's going to have to adapt. He being MJF, Max is going to have to change to bring himself to another level, to be able to become world champion again, because all of his usual cheap trickery, it's not working out for him. It's not going to work, and he's going to continue failing out on the Hangman unless he actually does something about it, right? Unless he changes his approach. Now, if they go out next week and have Hangman give MJF a shot without Max using his contract, I will understand it, but it won't be that big of a deal to me, but it will be less interesting. It will not be as interesting. That's for sure. So we'll see what happens next week. I think it was announced, right, that they're going to have a face-to-face, something like that. So this is probably where it's all going to get settled up. In the meantime, we're going to settle up this review here of AEW Dynamite on the podcast. Thank you all very much for being here. Thank you for hanging out. And if you wouldn't mind leaving a like on YouTube or a 5-star review or a 5-star rating, that would be tremendous as well. If you're listening to this on the Thursday, I will be back later tonight with the old stream here on youtube.com and slash MrWarrenHayes. and otherwise, I'll be back for the Mr. Warren Hayes show next week, more streaming next week, and another Dynamite review as well. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening. Go watch Randy Orton and get back to me, and I'll see you next time.